I want to officially welcome you to the show. And I love your story. I love having met you in person. It's super powerful, but I know it's going to resonate. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat about this. I think it's a really important topic. Not everyone speaks about it. And I think everyone sees like the glamorous side of entrepreneurship, but I'm really excited that you're doing this.
Yeah, and I know that you've got, like, tons of sides of the glamorous side, of course. You guys have had amazing adventures with your business. There's also the parts that we never see, so I will definitely be asking you about those, but for those that don't know you or they haven't come across your businesses yet, what is what was it like when you started your first business venture? What was the aha moment of deciding we're gonna do this? Like, what were the thoughts? What were the doubts? I already know this story, but we'll tell it here because it's a great one.
Yeah, so my partner, my husband now, Tom and I started our first business almost like 9 years ago. Basically, we met while we were traveling. We were both backpacking and started dating, had this whole travel fling, and we started dating. And Tom came to the Philippines. And at that time, I had already used up all my savings just to travel. Prior to that, I was saving up for 6 years just so that I could go on this 1 year, backpacking trip. And so I was really excited. And Tom was just like, "Do you want to keep traveling?" And I was just like, "I would love to, but I'm flat broke." I think I was down to like my last $2,000 at that time. And, at that time, Tom was just like, "Yeah, I really want to go." And I was like, "Okay, if we do go, we have to make money online. I don't want you to pay for me. I'm going to pay for my own way." And so I went on Google and literally typed how to make money while traveling. And the first article I landed on was I read about this blogger who was making $5,000 from their blog. At that time, 10 years ago, I was like, "Oh my God, that's a ton of money." I was like, "Tom, we need to start a blog. We need to start a blog." And Tom was just like, "Yeah, okay, let's do it." And then he goes, "What's a blog?" And so that's kind of how this whole thing started. And it's really funny, but, you know, that's how our first business started. And, one of the reasons why we're big believers of talking about money is because if that person didn't share how much they were making, I would have never known you could make money online. And I think money, it's so ingrained in us that it's a taboo not to talk about it. But I think once you hear other people talk about it, it's so expansive. It's so motivating. It expands your horizon on what's possible. And, that for me was a big aha moment. And although we had lots and ups and downs and throughout starting that first business, for me, it was that, oh, I can make money while I'm traveling. And at that time, traveling was what I loved the most. And so that was like a big aha moment for us.
And this was in
This would have
2015
been
or
2015. Yeah.
yeah, and so you were really on that wave of in some ways, you were sort of the forerunners getting into the travel blogging. This isn't when everybody was on Instagram. It's not when everybody had a blog. It really was a time where you're being pioneers. And you can
Yeah.
understand why he was like, "What is a blog?" It makes
No,
total sense.
exactly. So it was actually really funny because, it turned out to be our bread and butter for years. And yeah, it was very, very, very beginning of that stage. Instagram wasn't that popular and we were, writing and traveling and it was amazing.
Can you share a little bit about what was it like that first month when you go from 2 people, you've just seen this article, "Hey, we can make 5K, it's amazing," and he's learning what a blog is, what was that first month like? How did you kind of figure out what niche you wanted to really focus on within travel? How did you decide what post to write? I mean, what was that first month even like? Do you remember?
Oh my God. So, yes, so we started everything and it was such an exciting time. But at the same time, I think I have to mention this. Tom and I had just started dating seriously. So we were maybe about 6 to 7 months into dating after, this whole travel fling. And all of a sudden, we were thrown into the deep end of we have to start making money. It was a really interesting and fun time. Neither of us knew what a blog was, how to start a blog. And so we were literally Googling everything. And I remember at the time, Tom would be sitting in an internet cafe. Yeah, internet cafe because we were backpackers. We had no laptops or whatnot. So he was sitting in an internet cafe and trying to get up our first WordPress site. And then at that time, I was still teaching. So I would be working 8 hours a day. I would come home and then Tom would be like, "Oh, this is what I've done. This is the WordPress site." And I'd be like, "Yeah, great." And then I would go and write articles about our previous travels. And I don't know, for some weird reason, it worked for us. We were in this weird mode of we just want to start doing something. And it was a strange time because it was really difficult because we didn't know what we were doing. Like you asked us, how did you decide what niche? I was like, we didn't even know what a niche was. Like we didn't even decide on that. We were literally just writing about our previous, travel experiences and kind of just went with the flow. It all felt very organic and although difficult, and at times, we were still navigating how to date each other and how to work together and all of that. And so it was an exciting but really weird time.
Do you remember, and you might not because again, it's been a long time, but do you remember since you bring up this point of you were just starting to date and you're in business together, which I find fascinating anyway. I know everybody listening will. Even people who've been together for years don't think about starting a business together. So it is really interesting. But do you remember any sort of in the beginning where there was an overlap between you were having an issue trying to figure out the business or going in different directions with it, but you were also that was coming into the relationship? Were there any, like discussions that looking back, maybe it was a bit silly? I don't know, WordPress font should be this way. Like, was there anything that you remember along those lines?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And now Tom and I work amazingly together, but in the beginning we had a lot of figuring out to do. We didn't know how to respond. Like we're also from two different cultures. I'm from the Philippines and Tom's from the UK, and so that came into play. Like sometimes, Tom would say something and I'd be like, "Oh, that's really mean." And be like, "I'm just being blunt and just saying things." Well, in the Philippines everyone like tiptoes around each other and just like so nice. So that came into play. I can't remember like anything specific, but it took us a while to find our groove on how to work together. And, that's a whole episode to unpack how to work together with your partner. And, I think the most important thing is kind of like remembering each person's responsibilities and really leaning into each person's strengths and weaknesses. So like, he's the techie person. And so there was at no point I would question his like, "Oh, we should do this," when I really didn't know what we were doing. So at that time we were both figuring things out. But I would say really depending on each other's strengths and weaknesses was super important.
Yeah. It's really interesting too because it's almost you both were quite young as well. You were in your 20s and you were growing together in this relationship as you're also growing in your business knowledge because neither of you had run a business before starting the first one, right? This was the first
It
official?
was the first official, but I think Tom and I were both very entrepreneurial. Tom had like a network marketing business when he was in university. I was the geeky kid in high school and middle school who would like sell friendship bracelets or buy whatever stuff and sell it on school. I remember my first venture into entrepreneurship. I was maybe about 9 years old. I would go up to my classmates who are boys and I would be like, "Oh, so and so has a crush on you and her favorite color is purple. Would you like me to custom paint you the stationery?" And I would sell the stationery to them and they would buy it and they would write a love letter and give it to the girl. And I had this whole business cycle going on. And so it was the first proper business, but we've always both been very entrepreneurial.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because I think most people listening, even if they're very early or they're in their first business, they remember stories like this. And you, as a young kid, you knew what makes the world go round. It's love, lust, and greed. I
Yeah,
love it.
right.
Amazing. What was the point at where because I remember you were just saying now that in the beginning, he was going into the internet cafes, Tom was trying to research building out this WordPress website for you. You were still working. At what point did you feel comfortable to leave your job? Or maybe you didn't even feel comfortable yet and just decided to do it. But what was that moment where you said, "Okay, I'm gonna do this full time now?"
So it's a bit complicated, but obviously I was working for 6 years to save up for this year trip. And then I quit my job and I go on this year trip and just had the most incredible time of my life. And then about 7 months into that year trip, that's when I met Tom. And he was also backpacking and he was also in the middle of this gap year. And so after that year, I flew back to the Philippines and got a job, got a master's degree, enrolled in a master's degree because I was just like, this is the real world, right? And then Tom came to the Philippines and then he decided to stay because he got offered a job in a startup company. And so we were like, okay, we're dating. But after a couple of months, Tom was just like, I want to travel again. I'm going to travel in a couple of months. He was like, come with me. And at that time, I was like, I got no money. And he was just like, and so that's why we started the blog. And so when I said yes, start the blog, I was planning to quit my job at the end of the year. I didn't plan on renewing my contract as a teacher. And I was just going to go, let's just go all in. And which was crazy. But you're young, you're in love, and you're a little bit naive, which could work for you, which is why,
Which did work for you.
yeah, it did work for us. And yeah, it's funny when I think about it now. I'm just like, wow, I would like that was a big leap to do, but yeah, it worked out.
This is I love this because I think that most of us, when we get into entrepreneurship, it's not really, "Oh, let me make this decision once all my ducks are in a row." It's usually kinda that huge leap of faith, and you just go for it, and sometimes you fall flat in your face, and you have to get back up, but sometimes it works out, and for you guys, you found your stride. Is there a point where when did the idea then to teach other people to help them grow their blog come in? Because you had grown yours
Mhm.
rapidly. I mean, you can share the numbers. I remember reading about it. It was a lot of visitors were coming in. At what point was there another, like, search in Google and you found, "Oh, let's do courses," or how did that pivot start for you?
So it's funny because, when I was looking at the transition or our story, our entrepreneurial story, there's one common theme and why we transition from one thing to another. And the theme there is we've always been very authentic to who we are. And so we started a travel blog and we realized that we were awful travel influencers. We weren't that we were. And so we would be those bloggers that would go in this like epic hike and then we get to the viewpoint, and then I'm like, "Oh, Tom, did you bring the camera?" And he was like, "No, I didn't." And so we were those types of influencers. And so we were always awful about it. And so we realized that very early on, we didn't want to build a blog that was focused on us. And so we went down the affiliate marketing route, which was why we grew so rapidly. So at the point, before COVID, we were getting about 500,000 page views every month organically. And at that time, we focused on the affiliate marketing method. So we scaled and grew our travel blog to six figures. And we were just like, we love the business side of blogging. And so we leaned into that part and we were like, you know what? This is something that really interests us. And, I used to be a teacher and it kind of just flowed where we were just like, what if we could show others how to monetize their blogs? Because we came across so many bloggers who were amazing at taking photos, amazing at, their Instagram and everything, but they weren't making much money from their blogs. And we had cracked that code because we leaned into what was authentic to us, which wasn't being on camera that much and, being in the affiliate marketing and business side of things. And so we started our second company, which essentially showed people how to monetize their blogs. And we scaled that to seven figures. And it was incredible. At the time, we were, sharing our knowledge. We have students now who have taken our course and have gone full time with their blogs, quit their jobs, are traveling. And it's an incredible, it's incredible to say that we were part of their story. And we love that. And then, however, as we grew that company, we also realized that we it became a little bit too complicated for our lifestyle. So we started growing it and it was a low ticket product. And so that came with it their own complications. And so, we decided that whatever business we want to be in, it always has to be authentic to us and it always has to fit into our lifestyle. And so Tom and I are very big on lifestyle because what's the point of working so hard when you can't even enjoy it? That's kind of like our motto. And so at that time, we were scaling this and we realized that we weren't scaling it in a way that felt good to us and felt authentic to what we wanted out of life. And so again, we leaned into what do we love about this business? And we loved the coaching element of it. We loved helping people. And so we decided to pivot it. And now that's why we kind of fell into this new company where we're showing people how to package and sell their offers into a high ticket offer and sell that organically in a way that, suits their lifestyle. And I think to us, it felt like a natural evolution because we kept leaning into the things that we loved. And I think the reason why all three businesses were very successful is because throughout that time, we were always very authentic to what we wanted to do and very authentic to how we wanted to grow it.
I love that answer because it's something that a lot of people feel resistance to certain aspects of their business. And I think a big one is feeling like they need to be the influencer face of everything. And to hear from someone saying, we leaned away from that and we were still able to have enormous success is really helpful to hear. I'm going to back up for a few questions because you had an amazing story there, but there's so many things to follow up on. I guess the first one is you mentioned with affiliate marketing is what helped your second business really start to grow. Or was that more with the first business? The
That
affiliate
was the
marketing was
first,
the course, the first
yeah,
business.
the first business.
So that was, for example, having the ads on your website as affiliate marketing? Okay, and then that
Yeah. So
grew.
literally, we would have articles like, best hotels to stay in Bangkok. And when people would land on our blog, if they end up booking something on booking.com, we'd get a commission from that. And so we really did that very well with our first blog. And so that's what kind of caused us to teach it in our second blog, which is the course company.
Which was the course, and the course was the low ticket item that you said eventually didn't seem you were evolving to the next stage of that. What was it about? Because I love that you mentioned this, and I know that we've kind of had these conversations before, but what is it about the low ticket item that makes it complicated?
Um, It wasn't necessarily that it was low ticket because at the time we were selling things through ads, through paid ads. And so profit margins were shrinking. And so, my husband Tom, he's the paid ads genius and tech genius. And so at that time, there were months where he was spending $80,000 per month just on Facebook ads alone. And it was really good, but it was also very high stress. There were months that we could lose money and some months that don't. And so we were enrolling a lot of people, but then also a lot of people meant a lot of customer service, a lot of questions from people. And so that became this whole thing. And all of a sudden, Tom and I were like, I'm not sure if this fits the lifestyle that we want to live. And so the great thing about our first business is we still have that until now, and it's so passive. And so, you know, it reached a point where we were just like, I'm not sure if this is still true to what we want to be doing. And we're big believers that, we have one chance on this earth. And so if you're not doing something that excites you every single day, then you're doing something wrong. And so we were like, what do we love about that element of that second business? And so for us, it was coaching people. It was being involved in the story of I quit my job and I now do this full time. And so we had loads of success stories like that. And we're like, we want more of that. That's what we love doing. And so that's how we transitioned into Lifestyle Rich. And, we learned more about our mindset and business and all these things. And we realized, we've been in business now for almost a decade. And we realized that I think I was telling you this in the beach the other day, and I was saying that, everyone has access to the same strategies and tactics. But that's actually 20% of what attributes to your success. The 80% is your mindset. It's how you show up consistently. It's, still showing up even though you have all these negative thoughts and self-doubts and, all these things, imposter syndrome. And the 80%, your mindset, is what will really drive your success in business and entrepreneurship. And I feel like a lot of people don't give enough emphasis on that. If you go do courses, everyone's just teaching strategy and strategy and strategy, but no one's really giving you the right mindset to actually execute those strategies successfully.
I love that you brought this up, Anna. This dives perfectly into the next question because you're so right, especially in the beginning. I know, and I felt this, you've probably felt this, you both have. The mindset is the most challenging part. You can learn the skills, you can implement, but what keeps you going, what lets you lean into what feels good for you is the mindset. What are some of the mindset lessons that have helped you both the most, or in you in particular, that you would have loved to have learned sooner? Of course, we learn stuff in our own time, but, like, let's say you could go back in time. What do you think are the most powerful mindset lessons related to your work?
It's funny because for the longest time, I always saw Tom as the personal development guy. So, throughout our entrepreneurship journey, Tom would be the one who would be geeking out, reading all the self help professionals, mindset books. And so I've always kind of left that to him. And it was only in the last couple of years through mentorship that I've really come out of my shell and have started embracing this more. And I think, when it comes to mindset lessons, I think it's really just tackling all those subconscious thoughts and beliefs that you have and really questioning everything and really questioning whenever you have a thought that comes into your head, questioning, is this a fact or is this something that I've just come up with and there's really no truth to it? And I play a huge impact to how you execute things. And so I read this crazy statistic the other day, and it was something like in our thought process, only 5% is actually conscious thinking and 95% is subconscious thinking. And I'm just like, wow, that's insane. And so the fact that we don't question our thoughts, as entrepreneurs, it's natural for us to think, oh, who am I to do this? I'm not good enough, or you know I'm not great on camera. These are all just subconscious thoughts that we have come up with. But really, if you take the time to really, is there truth to this? And if there's a truth to it, what can I do to change it? How can I improve it? What can I do to shift my perspective to look at it in a different way that serves me? And so all these different things have come into play over the last couple of years. And it's really important that you remind yourself of that.
Yeah, this thought and emotional regulation is so critical. It's almost like the skill you should develop the most as an entrepreneur from the beginning because you can just go down that
Mhm.
comparison spiral, the worst case scenario spiral, the imposter syndrome spiral. And someone said something to me on the podcast the other day, which I'm curious to get your opinion about. She was saying that when we feel imposter syndrome, the thing is, we ignore it, but there's a kernel of truth to it sometimes. And you kind of just said that now, right? Where there's something maybe to refine or to look at, but not do it in a place of judgment. You still there? Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go.
Hi.
Oh no.
I know. I saw like at what point did we disconnect? You said your part all came through beautifully, your mindset lessons, and then you probably didn't hear me, or you did. I don't know.
I didn't hear you. So I think that's the part where we got disconnected.
Okay, that's fine. What all I was saying is that I love that you mentioned this aspect of emotional regulation, thought regulation, because those are your biggest enemies in the beginning, especially where you go down the spiral of comparison, when you go down
Oh
the
my God.
spiral of failure. Like all of that, it's so toxic, and if you can't manage that, then it's going to get you, it's gonna stop you, and you guys have so much success now, but when you were beginning, you didn't know you were gonna have the success. You know, you didn't know that this was gonna happen, and I think people forget that when they see successful entrepreneurs, that everyone has gone through that. It's just you worked on what you needed to get through it.
Yeah, I also think like it's really important. So, right now our business is, we use Instagram to grow our business. And when you go on Instagram, it's so easy to fall into the comparison trap. And this is always two things that I always tell our clients. The first is success is like an iceberg. So you see successful people on Instagram and you see them with their thousands, millions of followers. But what you see is the tip of the iceberg. But what you don't see is the bottom, which is the late nights, the figuring out their niche, the questioning their abilities, all those things. These people are where they are because they've put in the repetitions and, they've worked hard. And it's so easy for us to compare yourself. You're comparing yourself to you're comparing your day one to someone's 300, day 300, or day 1000. And so it's so easy to do that, especially when, in a sense, Instagram is very curated. People share the best parts of their life. All we see is this beautiful feeds and, all these picture perfect aesthetics. And we need to remember that, that's not real. People literally share the best parts. They find the most flattering photos of themselves and share that. They find the one part of their house that's not cluttered. And so it's so
Like,
important to to really, and be authentic to who you are and kick kick out those negative thoughts of self-doubt and comparison, because those thoughts aren't serving you. They're not helping you get to the next goal, and they're not helping you grow as an entrepreneur.
yeah, and this is too why I've said this before and you'll probably agree with it, is if you have a lot to work out mentally and emotionally, focus on that, focus on it. Do not leave it as you go into entrepreneurship because it's like it's almost like being thrown a child and have done no skills to get there. Like, you need to do the skills, you need to be ready in some way, and if you're not, you have to invest in that personal development work, and I love that you brought it up. There was something else that you had just said that stuck with me a lot, something that was really powerful, and I think it was along the lines of it was along the lines of the comparison and Instagram and using that for your business. I wonder too, there's a side you talked about, right, where you see people and they're showing the best angle of their face, the best corner of their home, the best month they made in their sales. But there's also the other side I see where there's some people who are so successful and they have almost no followers on Instagram and they have almost no comments. I remember there was a ghostwriter. I was looking for someone, for an author to find them this. This ghostwriter had written 6 New York Times best-selling books and she had 300 followers and you could barely find her. So you cannot judge everything by that, right? Like you have to really know that it's all perception here.
Absolutely. Like, some of our students are killing it every month, making, 10, 20K, and they have a couple thousand followers. You don't need to have millions and millions of followers. What you need to have is a strong brand. So, you being able to authentically communicate who you are and what you stand for. And you have to be able to share that with, a small group of people. It's so easy sometimes you post a reel and then you're kind of going, oh, it only got 1,000 views or something. I'm like, can you imagine if you were on stage and you had 1,000 people watching you? You'd be so scared. And that's the same thing. We get to use this incredible free platform and, share our message, whatever it is, with thousands and not even millions of people. And we're worrying about how many likes it gets, or we're worrying about how many views it gets. Like, you need to just be focused on your message and your story and delivering that in a way that feels authentic to you, that will naturally call in your tribe or call in people who would want to work with you.
Yeah, this is such an important thing to remember is that perspective, like you said, around if this were real life, how would you think about it? If this were real life, it would mean a lot more. And two, I don't know about you, but when you get the same people liking and commenting again and again, that's amazing. Imagine having the same people, even if it's 5 people, continually liking and commenting on your work. If you had that kind of fanship in real life, you would be so happy, right? Like, you think it's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's like having like it's imagine it's like having a hype team of like 5 people walking around you, and every time you do something, they're like, "Yeah, that's awesome." Like you should be so encouraged. And I think, oftentimes we're distracted by the vanity metrics of how many followers do I have or how many likes did this post get, that we lose the depth, the actual connection, and the relationships that social media can allow us to forge. And I think that's something that's really important.
Yeah. This is something where we've talked about how one of the biggest struggles in entrepreneurship is this comparison. And it's also the self doubt and the imposter syndrome that you referenced a little bit earlier. Is there something else we talk a lot about on the show is the fear of failure and actually failing and how much that can stop people? Is there something that you invested in the past for any of the businesses you've created where it felt like it was a failure? And then what was kind of the aftermath of that?
Good question. So we have Tom and I have a very different perspective when it comes to investing in things, because we're the type of people, if we spend money, we're going to find even just one thing that makes that money worth it. So as entrepreneurs, just this year alone, we've invested around $48,000 on mindset and personal development, on mentorship and on courses. And even if we watch one course, and even if we just get one thing, that one thing is being added into our brains, and that one thing has the potential to change our business and make millions. And so every investment that we do, we approach it from that perspective. And so whether, of course, there's been courses that we've bought that we weren't 100% like amazed by or blown away by, but as long as we find one thing, then it's worth it. And, we're huge believers in investing in yourself. And I know everybody says this, everybody's just like, oh, yeah, invest in yourself, invest in mentors. But it's true. And, a little bit of a segue here, but I think a lot of people tell you, oh, you should invest in yourself, especially in the early days, find a mentor. But what they don't tell you is the cost of not investing in yourself. And so, for example, like when we first, it took us 2 years to grow our first business. And, for the longest time until now, our first business brings around $20,000 every month. And so, if we had invested in mentors or a coach or a course, we would have half that time. And let's say we would have monetized our blog in a year. So, really, the cost of not doing that was around $240,000. So, everyone's like, yeah, you should invest, but no one talks about the cost of not investing. And so, this is something that we're huge believers on. And, lessons are out there, and you pay for it with either time and skill. And at the very beginning, we were just so gung ho to do it all ourselves, to figure it all out. We were just like, yeah, we can do it. We were Googling everything and this. But in reality, like, if we had paid the money, invested that, we would have collapsed our learning time, and we would have succeeded far more. Or, we would have learned the lesson, and it would just have sped up the time of all of that.
Yeah. This is where in the beginning we value so much more our money than our time, but actually in the beginning it's the inverse, isn't it? Where what you really should be valuing more is your time because that's where you could be infinitely progressing, moving on to the next thing, finding what you want to do and have always found that to be the case that it's worth it to get help and support and to find answers because you cannot no one has ever done it all on their own ever. It just doesn't happen.
Absolutely. And you're right. I think it's very smart to point out that in the beginning everyone does this. Everyone is so, you know, so scared to invest in themselves, and you're still teetering over the, oh, but I can do it myself, I can learn it, because you're scared to take that jump, because you feel like if you make that jump, then you're really all in this whole business thing. But in reality, that can just speed up so much learning, so much lessons, and get you to where you want to be even faster.
Yeah, I love that. I think that that's so important to consider. And we have mentioned this in other episodes, but I want to mention it here just as a caveat is that it doesn't mean you don't do the research to decide who you invest in. I think that's really important is there are different levels of mentors and coaches and support and programs. And just because they promise something doesn't mean you'll get it. So you still need to do the research. Like
Oh,
you still need to make
absolutely.
sure that that person is who you want to work with. But I think it's a huge important point. And also looking back, if I could have done my first 3 years differently, the one thing I would have done is invested in help and support instead of just trying to figure out everything, every single
Yeah,
angle.
absolutely. We have this thing where we say, find someone who is where you want to be and invest in them. So
Yep.
obviously that would also, it also works for find someone who has a similar lifestyle to that you have, someone who you can resonate with, and but find someone whose business is where you want to be and invest in them. Don't get caught up in the hype of marketing, or don't get caught up in the hype of, oh yeah, this person says they're doing $1 million, so let me invest in them. You also have to find someone that resonates with you, has the business that you want to have, or has a skill that you want to learn, and invest in them after doing your research, of course.
Yeah. What would you say as kind of a final question, because I wanna make sure I ask you this, is we've been talking about investing in yourself, investing in your business. What was the best thing that you invested in? What was the investment that you both made and you thought, "Wow, this was incredible. This is what we should have done earlier, or we're so grateful that we did it now."
Ironically, it's like a mindset, mentorship, because we realize that for years, we've been investing in tactics. We've been investing in mentorship and tactics and masterminds on how to run paid ads, how to scale webinars, how to do this. But it's only in the last couple of months and even years where we've invested in mindset mentorship. And the shift that's happened in both of us is just incredible in that sense, which makes us feel more confident in the direction of our business, but also we're able to make better decisions on what we want, because we realize that we've been so skilled in all these different things. And that's the reason why we were able to grow all our businesses. But if we had really reinforced our mindset, we would have had less self-doubts. We would have had less, going back and forth questioning, is this the right decision? Is this that? And even touching back on what you were talking about earlier about fear of failure, you know, through investing in mindset and mentorship, I realized that there's nothing wrong with failure. It's only failure if you don't learn from it. And so Tom has this thing he says, fail fast and learn fast, because the faster you fail, the quicker you can rise up and do something else. And so, we're quick to jump all in and fail and try different things, because as long as you get one lesson from that, you won't be repeating the same mistake. And so I think this encapsulates entrepreneurship. Like you said, so many people, sit in the sidelines because they're too scared to take that leap. They want all their ducks in a row. But sometimes you just have to leap. And if you fall flat on your face, you fall flat on your face. It doesn't matter. You will stand back up, try again, and then you'll find yourself with this momentum where you're just leaping and skipping, and soon you'll be running. You know, there's so many different examples of that throughout entrepreneurship, but I think it's really important that you understand that there's no perfect circumstance for you to start a business. There's no perfect circumstance for you to quit your job or any of this. That's part of the exciting thing about entrepreneurship, and that's something that I love the most about it, really.
Yeah, this is a powerful reminder because it's also none of us got into this because we wanted predictability, let's be honest. None of us are here because we wanted to have days exactly the same every single day for all the years of our lives. We were drawn to this, and so you kind of have to accept and move with it and flow with it like you're saying, and fail fast and learn fast and understand that it's not personal when you fail. It's just you learn the skill, you keep going. It's not anything innately wrong with you, which I think a lot of people think. So, I love that. Well, last
Absolutely. And
question. Sorry,
yeah,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
add on. Please add it.
No, I was just gonna say, like, self-doubt is something that happens to new entrepreneurs, to seasoned entrepreneurs. It's there. It's this monkey brain that we have. And this is why it's so important to surround yourself with people who don't, who can kick you out of those beliefs. So surround yourself with people who challenge you when you have these limiting beliefs. And, this is why for us in this new phase that we're in, we're so big around community because we want to build a community of people who are open, whose mindsets want to be reminded and challenged and want to grow and want to think abundantly. And it's so important to surround yourself by people who do that and think like that.
This you keep adding gold. How am I gonna end this interview? No, I think the community piece, I love that you mentioned it because this is the one of besides fear of failure, this is the other thing and not investing in yourself. This is the other third thing that most entrepreneurs learn a little late, which is you need community. You really do to support you so that you can understand. But also, I think there was something you said earlier in the interview about find the people who are where you want to be and living the life you want. And the powerful lesson of that is you can know something cognitively. You can say to everyone, you have to keep pushing, and these numbers are possible for you, and it is possible this growth, but you can only feel it and really accept it when you see it in your community and people like you. I think that's the biggest thing. And so it's so important to mention that. And I know you guys are big on building community with your work.
Yeah, it's something that I think aside from mentorship, it's the next thing that I think people need because us entrepreneurs we're the 1% crazy. We're the ones who leave, the safe space of whatever it is that, normal 9 to 5ers do, and we're willing to venture out into the unknown. And so making sure that you have a community who normalizes crazy goals, who normalizes these big ambitions. And so we're building a movement right now of, entrepreneurs who want lifestyle, who want money, but more importantly, time. And so in our circle of, in our community, people have big goals. Like Tom and I shared our goal, our financial goal there. And someone was like, yeah, I want to double mine. I want to reach 40K by February. I want to do this. If you said that to a normal person, in your circle of friends from back home, people will look at you like you're crazy. And so it's important to surround yourself with people who have these crazy goals, who have these crazy big ambitions, but also want to live a balanced lifestyle, who also want to go to the beach and, spend time with their family. And so for us, we've been in both sides of the spectrum. We've been in the spectrum of hustling really hard. And then Tom and I look at each other and we're like, what's the point of this? And then we've also gone to the very bottom of the spectrum where we just took off for a year and just backpacked around and our business was still ticking over, but we weren't really working. And so it's now finding this balance and being able to find a community that supports that motivates each other and challenges each other. So for example, one topic that we're talking about in our community now is money beliefs and why we need to start talking about money. And it's funny, this might be a little bit of a segue, but actually not talking about money came from factory workers a way back. It's this propaganda that the government did. So basically, factory workers started talking to each other saying, oh, what are your wages? And they realized that, the factories were paying them different wages. And so they released this propaganda saying, oh, it's impolite to talk about money. You shouldn't be talking about money with your neighbors. And so we grew up in this society where no one talks about money. which is crazy, which is why everyone has so much negative beliefs about it and people feel uncomfortable. But really, money is neither positive or negative. It's an energy, it's a exchangeable resource, and we put so much value in it, but really time is the one resource that's non-renewable. Money's there, money will come and go, but time isn't, and we have a finite number of time. And so it's strange that we have so much importance on money, and yet so many people don't really think about how they're spending their time.
Yeah. And this is a reminder for everyone listening then stop wasting all of your time when you can start really capitalizing on support and help for resources and to have money come in and flow to you. And it is something to think about and to focus on, even for mindset. I think focusing on your relationship with money as an entrepreneur is really underlooked as a pillar that can change the way your business goes. Because if you have any sort of difficulties with money mentally, psychologically, and you don't, whether that's you hoard it, you don't spend it, you feel unsafe with it, whatever your emotions are around it, that is going to follow you no matter what success you have in your business. And you will never feel calm until you can resolve that. And
Yeah,
calm, in my
absolutely.
opinion, is worth as much as time, you know,
And it
like peace of mind.
Yeah, it's also crazy because a lot of our money beliefs are passed on from our parents. And we don't take the time to actually question these beliefs. We're just like, oh, yeah, my parents taught me to save. And so I'm always going to be saving. And they said money doesn't grow on trees. And so, but really taking the time to unravel your money story and unravel which beliefs are serving you and which aren't is so powerful and will really change you as an entrepreneur, will change you as a person, and will just change how you see things. Because a lot of these, our money traumas are passed on to us by either societal implications or things that happen in our families. And so, really taking the time to think about it and unravel it is so interesting. It's an interesting exercise.
Yeah. We might need to have you back on the show. I wanna make sure at least we do the most important question of all of this, which is we've been talking a lot about the value of your time. We've been talking a lot about investing in yourself, about having balance between income and free time. And I know that's what you both work on. So if you wanna share, where can people find you? If they wanna work with you, if they wanna know more, where can they do that?
Sure. By the way, I would love to come back to your show. It's been so fun. Basically, you could find us hanging out on Instagram. It's Hey Anna Roger. Over there, I share tips on brand, mindset, on business, on money. Our brand is called Lifestyle Rich, and essentially, we're building a movement of entrepreneurs who want both money and time. So, we no longer have to just fall into the trap of the hustle culture. And we want to build a safe space for people who want to expand their minds, expand to what's possible, and also challenge themselves. So we're helping people do that, sell high ticket offers on Instagram. And yeah, we've been so excited to kind of just form our community of people who are interested in the same things. Because, if you go online, everyone's talking about just hustling and working hard, and it's all about high cash revenues, but we believe you can have both, and a balance of both is a balance of a happy life. And we want to enjoy life and make the most out of it. And so that's what we've been working hard in doing. So you can find me on Instagram at Hey Anna Rogers.
Amazing. I will include all the links in the show notes to connect with you, Anna. And I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing this. The wisdom you have from 10 years of business is incredible. And it is really valuable and means a lot that you've taken the moment to share it with everyone here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to connecting with anyone. And yeah, it's entrepreneurship is such an exciting journey. And no matter where you are in your business, it's it's going to be amazing. So yeah, keep at it and keep growing.